Hello everyone and welcome back to game week 2 of the 23-24 PTC Therapeutics Premiership here at the Lee Westwood Sports Centre, where we're just getting ready for a great game between Aspire and Sevenoaks. Delighted to be joined on commentary for the first time by England head coach Colin Gordon. How are you?
I'm okay. Let's make sure it's not the last. It depends how I go. I'm good, thank you, Ryan. Good to be here.
No, thank you. I did say in the previous game that you would be joining me, so hopefully we have lots of people tuning in, and I'll keep a look and an eye on questions that filter in, so I might have to throw a few your way. But no, Aspire very much looking to continue a strong start to game week 2 following that earlier 4-2 victory over Newcastle. They started to put some really nice football together, but Newcastle had a late rally, a little bit too late. Sevenoaks started with a 1-1 draw against West Bromwich Albion Throstles. So 3 of your England team present here, featuring from the start in John Baldwin, Brad Bates and Dan McClellan.
Yeah, and some former ones in Kyle and Greg. So, yeah, lots to be looking out for.
Baldwin trying to put some early pressure on Sevenoaks. Must be so encouraging for you to have so many options to pick from these days. I think we've just discussed off there when we had the recent podcast episode about the kind of the system that's been implemented and the pathway, as Carl Alexander really complacent almost to allow that. Just discussed off there when we had the recent podcast episode about the kind of the system that's been implemented and the pathway, as Carl Alexander really.
And hopes for Brad, he will be very pleased about that. Not a great start for Sevenoaks. Let's see how they respond, if they can find some confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aspire take a 1-0 lead within the first minute. But as I was saying, with the talent pathway and the England development squad.
No, it's an amazing group to be a part of now, and obviously the regional development groups. It's just, we're the envy of the world. We said it on the podcast, and we absolutely are. It's great to come to days like this and to meet people and to have a chat. Just it's just great to be around. It keeps all the positivity from the World Cup going as well, which is important.
Completely. And I referenced 2 players. Brad Bates probably didn't feature as much at the World Cup as he would have wanted, but we know how much quality he possesses, certainly in the wider positions. And Tyler Reeve, probably your newest player within your squad. You've potentially earmarked to play a really big part in the future of England. They didn't feature too frequently in Sydney, but we know how much quality there is. So if they get their chance at international level, hopefully they can replicate what they're showing here at Nottingham week after week.
Absolutely. Well, Brad's been with us before, and he had a bit of a break and then came back. He made a courageous move to move down to Aspire, which worked out very well for him. Built his relationship with John and Dan, and that stood him in great stead for the World Cup. But you know, when you're in the middle of a World Cup, it's it's about winning football matches. So my job is to put the best group on the pitch that we think we can get a result at any given time. Nobody let the group down at all, and all had great moments. But at the end of the day, you know, you can only pick 4, and it's for these guys to keep progressing, to take the experience forward, and for them to use that to become better players and to get more accustomed and used to the system that we're trying to introduce now.
Yeah, completely. And on that topic, as Brad Bates just has possession on this left-hand wing. Tom Kelly in support, guides it goal-bound into the alternate keeper of Greg Baxter. All 8 players featuring here today are within the England pathway, whether they represent at senior level, England development level, or within the National Emergent Talent Programme. So that's really encouraging to see.
It is, and I think there are many more that could be on that pathway as well. It's just it's a great time to be involved with the national team for sure, and with the FA. And as I said, I've been on record, as said, I think now that the WFA with Dean and you know, and the committee, I think that we've now got the best relationship we've ever had with the FA, which is perfect for us.
So if we haven't already, just to go through the teams quickly: Tom Kelly in goal for Aspire, John Balding in front, wingers of Brad Bates and Dan McClellan, Sevenoaks, Greg Baxter, Carl Alexander, Harry Beswick and James Mason. Will they attempt a boom boom? They tried it once in their game against Newcastle United.
We're in danger here, mate, I think. Oh, good. I like that. I like that.
Really?
Must be said, I don't like the boom boom. I'm not a fan. But I like the improvisations around. I think I saw a brilliant one this morning from Tyler and Ed.
Yeah.
And that was great. And Tyler full spin to the far post.
I was exactly what I was going to reference. They almost shape up as they're going to take a boom boom. And
it's not a bad thing to do. Good play.
Nice ball from Dan McClellan.
Oh, wow.
Fired by Brad Bates.
That's what I like to see Dan do. That's unlucky. That one where he lets the ball run across him and tries to hook it in the near post. That's what I like to see him do. What
I reference a lot, and I think is a key part of your planning, whether that's in training camps or in competition, is the use of deception and almost trying to feint a certain way, or such a key aspect. I know it's within the different levels of the England pathway. Deception is one of the key components. But obviously I saw Ed Common in the previous game, and he's just
master.
Exactly
master
that.
It. But everybody needs to be on your team expecting that deception. You can't get deceived as well.
I think the downfall for a lot of teams and players is the predictability of it.
Yeah. And the predictability of the sport really forced us to change around the box and the way that we break the lines now. And I've looked at, I think I've watched every game over and looked at where we've got to get better. Even though we did particularly well in times, I think there were 30, 40 opportunities where we could have created goal scoring chances if we'd have got the inside pick-off positions right.
McClellan trying to force it between Baxter and Alexander. Brad Bates, and plenty of space on this left-hand wing. Very defensive approach from Sevenoaks as Balding tries to diagonally.
See the difference there? You can see, and we're going to reference England obviously, but Dan would be naturally playing back to Chris there, and John would be in an inside right position to receive the ball off Chris, and then you've got your four out. When you're playing, John plays the way he does, everything has to go back through John, and you never get John in the right positions where he can actually start the play back up again. And I want to see Tom or whoever they think, for me, Aspire really now should be looking to become more four out.
Yeah.
And he's got to get better on his front bumper.
Yeah, another thing we spoke about in the podcast is kind of the natural successors for John Balding and Chris Gordon. I think there's a few players that could definitely, not necessarily with regards to charisma, presence for John Balding, but in terms of potential quality, you've got Dan McKellen, Dan Rigby. Chris Gordon is a much harder player to replace almost. Because there is no players playing the way he does. No,
and I've just been speaking to Ross at Leeds about that, and I'm really encouraged to hear that Dan Rigby and Lewis are spending so much time together. And I said to Ross, don't split them up in training. It's exactly what we do with John and Chris. We never split them up.
Yeah.
And so that telepathic understanding they have has been worked on. It's not just a natural thing. The fact that they train together all the time, and I think it's important that people realise that it's a pair. It's and you're probably going to be ending up where poor old Tyler was thrown in at the deep end, and he always had to be with one or the other. He didn't get a chance to build a partnership. I'm lucky there from Brad. Great football, great ball from Dan McClellan, which we're used to.
Yeah, Aspire making the court as big as possible. Obviously, we unfortunately don't have full-size regulation courts at the Lee Westwood Sports Centre, but Aspire brilliantly trying to make it as large as they can, utilising all three attacking players. That's the difference between Aspire and West Brom. You would see Chris involved in the play in some way here. Tom Kelly drops back. Is
Look, there's no right or wrong way.
No.
Aspire have been very, very successful, and obviously, current champions and FA Cup holders. So you can't be critical. But I think that's probably more down to John's personality and the ability of the wide players.
Yeah, I will give Tom Kelly credit. His distribution has got much better as he's grown in confidence within that role.
I've seen Tom with the development group, and he's a good footballer, but
Yes.
it's just that opportunity to come and get into the line with Aspire that that perhaps he'd have more of an opportunity with England. But as I say, there's no right or wrong way. You can't say that Aspire should be doing this or should be doing that because they're winning everything.
McClellan and Harry Bestwick all trapped between the chairs. Tom Kelly now has to be alert. Harry Bestwick on the right hand side.
I think Sevenoaks have done great to weather that early hiccup because they weren't certainly under great pressure, and they've got a foothold in the game.
That communication between Baxter and Alexander is so key. I know they've had difficulties. I think they're just such similar players in how they approach a game that it's taken probably longer than expected for Coach Adam McAvoy to ensure that they gel as a unit.
There's more trust there for sure. You can see the trust in them. They're not panicking.
Once again, a good option picked by Tom Kelly.
Looks, that's a great ball.
Yeah.
That's where composure, take two touches, take the ball to the touchline, and it's just all like rabbit caught in headlights sometimes, and you've got to understand if that's what you're trying to do. Don't be shocked if the ball comes to you.
Exactly that. They're kind of out of possession for so long. Harry Bestwick within that passage of play has had little involvement across the opening 10 or so minutes, and when it does come firing in his direction, that chair preparation, which you obviously talk about time and time again, is what separates good players from great players.
It's an appreciation of space and realising that if you've got the ability to take two touches, and then take the ball, turn everybody around. John's got to come back towards his own goal, as have Brad and Dan, and you've got them on the back foot. But you work so hard to create a pass like that, which was a great ball, and then not to take advantage of it, it's disappointing.
Dan McClellan with responsibility of this kick in on the right hand side. Slightly rushed, gifting possession back to James Mason.
Yeah.
Patient.
See John setting up for the reverse there. He's got his Aspire head on, whereas England, we're encouraging him to go and compress that space and come off the front bumper. It's just different. You've got to admire John's ability to play both games. He's a bit of a Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's playing left and right-handed at the moment. Can't get through. Normally Dan would be playing back second pivot.
Yeah, really interesting to directly compare. The last time we saw these as a unit, it was in Sydney, where they play a very different form of football.
Yeah,
I think it's widely kind of known that West Brom, whilst not identical, are the closest way to that of England, but that is more again down to Chris and the positions in which he takes up on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chris, you've got that. You're in that fortunate position that you're almost like the Tom Brady quarterback. You can see the whole pitch and you can decide when to come into the line and when not to. But also you've got to be very vocal and let people know you're coming into the line, and maybe that's less prevalent with John with Aspire. Is less likely to move out the way. I think he got fed up of arguing with Chris in the end and just let him come through.
And that's why I want to see a shift away from players having these negative connotations with goalkeepers, because we're shifting away from the stereotype that they just need to be an obstacle between the posts now.
Yeah. But I think what you need to understand is actually what the role is of the goalkeeper, and the more that we help and the more that we can educate, the better people will understand and appreciate what we're trying to do. And the more they will succeed at it, that's the key. We just didn't invent this role this way just because it looks good. I mean, it's pleasing on the eye. We did it because we wanted to be effective.
Oh, completely.
This is a very tight game still.
It's good work from Sevenoaks. They just need to be a bit more precise in them the passes in the final third.
So that's a forced pass from Greg, and really all he needed to do is keep it front bumper and play back the way he came. Then he set himself for the second strike. And just because you haven't been dominating possession sometimes, as you said earlier, you can just force things a little bit. They just need to be a bit calmer.
That's slight complacency setting in. Precision in passes very much applies to the defensive actions as well. Golden could have very easily created a goal scoring opportunity from that misplaced pass from Greg Baxter, as Bestwick comes back to defend off the front of his chair. It's going to be a corner kick taken by Brad Bates. We've got just under 5 minutes to play. Spire 1, Sevenoaks 0. Just that single Brad Bates goal on the first minute.
I'm worried about John on the back bumper here. If Brad plays the perfect line that we're dead directly in line with, I can't see how they can't score.
It's a great ball.
There you go.
Just wide of the right-hand post,
Couldn't
but you
see how they couldn't
prophesied it.
score. Dan was a little bit poor share position, front bumper finish there, and you know, I couldn't see how he could miss.
Full credit to Brad Bates.
The delivery was
there.
perfect, but they needed to put somebody in that space. Sevenoaks off that set piece. Again, Dan, 2 touches. John's in a great position to compress the space on the edge of the box, take the touch and pull it back so John can come onto it from bumper. The lads have all been saying that, you know, first time they've had a go in their chairs for a long time, and there's a lot of rustiness out there for sure.
There will be, but that will probably apply. The same with game week 3. I think it's 4 months till game week 3, and I know we had a big lull through the for the World Cup, but the same they'll probably say the same thing about game week 3. It's
absolutely, but at least they'll be able to get in their chairs in training. They haven't been able to get in their chairs at all. They've been stuck in transit in Los Angeles or somewhere, so they've only just got the chairs back.
Very condensed almost.
They're doing great. Sevenoaks are doing great. They just need a little bit more trust, a little bit more confidence in what they're trying to, and what Adam's trying to get them to do. You can see what they're trying to do is right. They just need a little bit more belief.
Nice.
But the biggest concern for them is if they do commit in numbers, that John can basically pick them apart, and that's their biggest concern. You can see that doubt as they're building play up. They don't want to get caught with 2 or 3 up the pitch.
That's why it's so important when they are able to break the lines and break the press. The accuracy and the precision in them passes are so important, and the preparation of the wide play, certainly with respect to James Mason and Harry Bestwick.
I think if you break the lines in the right way, you'll always have the 2 pivots still behind the ball, and so you've always got that comfort. You've always got that comfort that if it breaks down, and that's what we've been working on. That John and Chris would stay behind the ball, and that, you know, you're not going to get 2 better in the world at defending, no matter who you're up against. So, you know, I can see what Sevenoaks are thinking, but when they do actually flood forward with numbers, you're thinking the only team that's going to score here is Aspire, even though they're in their own box.
Yeah, exactly. Just approaching the final minute.
That's just, and that must be the first 2-on-1. How refreshing is that? You know, the standards they've gone through the roof all over, the refereeing, the coverage, everything. You know, I can't remember a time when you get into the last minute of a half that you've had 1-2-on-1.
Yeah.
You know, that shows the teams are trying to play, keep their space, keep their distances. It's really encouraging.
You can understand why so many different nations tune into our action. So we really are the leading example worldwide of what excellent power chair football looks like.
I absolutely agree. The whole package, presentation, everything is absolutely spot on.
Final 30 seconds. Sevenoaks, as has been mentioned, will be really happy with how they've adapted following that early Brad Bates goal. They won't want to concede here though. Just out of play, just a decision between the officials. It's going to be a goal kick.
That's the normal John Bowling, you can't be serious. He makes John McEnroe look like Mr. Borg.
Regulation 20 played, now into any additional time that our referee Peter Taylor has accrued. Very little at the half-time break.
It's good he blew then. I think that was going to be 2-0.
Spire 1, Sevenoaks 0. Just a single Brad Bates goal. Live on Court A. Nomad Knights currently taking on West Bromwich Albion Throstles. I'll remind everyone once again, WFA Cup draw will be held at 5:45 this evening and be streamed live off the WFA's Facebook page. Thank you to all that have joined myself and Colin for that first half. We'll be back shortly for the second. Held with Colin Gordon, the head coach of the England national team side. He put so much emphasis, and he said himself, and I quote, he wants to see some of the discussed off there when we had the recent podcast episode about the kind of the system that's been implemented and the pathway, as Carl Alexander really
absolute top. He was superb. Because he talked to the players during the game. He said, well done. You know, the lads were loving it.
That's why I want to see Steve Cook. That's why he was hoping he did it.
Trophies tremendous. Well, he was brilliant in the World Cup final in Italy. He was fantastic. He just really, really good. But his coach, sport as well as referee, you know. I thought the referees, I thought the lady from Australia was very good, but I just thought the semi-final was a little bit, maybe a bit of a, she just got a little bit overawed, but I don't know what was being said in her ear.
Yeah, I don't think she should have been given that.
Yeah.
Like she should have been given Argentina World. It's her first World Cup, is it? Leads into the process. You don't chuck them in.
Martin doesn't appreciate it. Yes, and I'd definitely have taken Dan McClelland off, who was having a beast of a game.
Hello everyone and welcome back to this soon to be second half in this Premiership fixture between Aspire PFC and Sevenoaks PFC. Just a single goal separating the two teams, scored by Brad Bates in the first few seconds of that first half. Once again delighted to be joined on commentary by England head coach Colin Gordon.
Interesting first half. I thought Sevenoaks gave a great account of themselves after an early setback, which was of their own making. So, no, really pleased.
But they won't want to get complacent. They want to start as they finished. It's typically always at the start of halves that Sevenoaks just slack a little bit with regards to their concentration. So if they can maintain their focus. Aspire, who have made a single change in the break. Dan McClelland coming off, Jordan Williams, the player replacing him. Sevenoaks unchanged, so they start the second half with Brandon and Harry Beswick. Bates down to Williams for his first involvement. As Bates did in the first half. Williams very patient and just picking his option.
Again, rushed around the edge of their own box, and these kinds of errors always seem to come back and bite them. I don't think they're as bad a team as perhaps the league table suggests. I think a lot of it is of their own making at times.
Yeah, it's just them individual errors they need to try and iron out of their game. But in terms of player for player, they're far better than their placement in the table reflects.
I think the whole package, I think they're well coached. They put a lot of effort and energy into it, but at times they just force issues that come back and bite them. And I think they've just got to work and being a little bit more confident, a little bit more comfortable. Mr. Balding hits the post.
Yeah, early attacking pressure. Unlucky from Balding. Had he got that on target, I think Baxter was there to get it anyway, but the pressure still placed on their defensive players. Balding.
Again,
that's where
ball breaks down. Just got to have a little bit of composure. You know, get yourself up the pitch. Just a bit of chair preparation.
Single option on the bench for Sevenoaks in that of Miles Miller. Aspire have Sally McNeil and Bobby Williams as their unused substitutes, as well as, of course, Dan McClelland. Balding out to Bates.
I'm not sure. I think that's fair.
Excessive force.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
As deemed by our central referee Pete Taylor, so direct free kick will resume play. James Mason on the left hand wing Kyle Alexander in the centre.
These are the areas where I worry. Exactly that.
Really,
these are the areas where I worry, that the build-up is too open.
James Mason on the left-hand wing, Kyle Alexander in the centre.
These are the areas where I worry. Exactly that.
Really,
these are the areas where I worry, that they build out from deep positions.
Yeah, Greg Baxter will be really disappointed with that. It was just almost, it was just rushed a little bit.
Yeah.
That goal kick.
Yeah.
Just gifted a goal to Aspire.
And to what we've been discussing, it's another Sevenoaks error, and they don't deserve it. They really don't.
We've obviously spoken about Tom Kelly, and when you've seen him within the England development team being a good footballer, we don't necessarily see that. The same can very much be applied to Greg Baxter, such a good footballer who can occupy any position on the court. So it'll be interesting to see if Adam McAvoy looks to shift and change his approach in this game. Now trailing by 2 goals to nil.
That's great. Oh dear. That's so unlucky. An advantage there, all the work that they've done. That was everything that we do with England, as you know, right? The pass back from the opposite wide player into the goalkeeper, and then the switch of play is exactly what we work on. And I think that's their best option. Breaking from their own box is their best option. When the ball comes mid-court, I really worry for them.
Well, if they are to take that option, they need the confidence, as you've spoken about, and the precision on the passes. Certainly when they're going backwards, and that's where once again we reference the relationship between Baxter and Alexander, as once again just not quick enough to close down Boulding, who gets Aspire's third. And that's where once again we reference the relationship between Baxter and Alexander, as once again just not quick enough to close down Boulding.
And his front bumper to the far post for a tap in, and that's the difference. You know, I think teams now are better set up to defend their box than they've ever been. But he scored via a deflection, and you know, the shape of the game's changed now to a 3-0 game, and it's never been a 3-0 game. And I just hope that Sevenoaks don't lose their confidence.
One credit to Brad Bates, who obviously provided that assist for Boulding's goal. Fantastic accuracy. I think you've mentioned it. It was a big risk, him moving from champions West Brom to Aspire. I think he had many different reasons for wanting to do so, not least to try and break back into your side, and
he did that, and the choice he made has been vindicated, and I think it's helped him. He's developed him as a player for sure.
Absolutely. He has possession now, takes that touch and then distributes. Miles Miller, who's recently entered the fray in place of Harry Beswick, does well to clear. There's no real way out for Sevenoaks now. It's a rare miss hit from Bates.
See, on the half spin again. If that goes back to Greg, you're out, and they've got to learn that you've got to play your triangles there.
Obviously, that goal from Boulding took a heavy deflection, so as long as it's attributed to the England and Aspire captain, he'll sit only 2 goals away from registering 400 National League goals. James Mason now. Would have liked to have seen him stay in reverse a little bit longer.
Yeah. Be prepared to take the ball and play 2 touches.
And that's what Brad Bates does, and that's where you see a good young upcoming player and a world-class player.
Yeah.
Jordan Williams with possession, top left-hand corner of the court. Ricochets across the face of goal. Bates into Boulding. Doesn't opt to use his front bumper, so just engages a little battle with Kyle Alexander. Eventually picks out Bates on the right. Off of Baxter's chair.
I think John's left his front bumper in Australia.
You can certainly see it when that's obviously very fresh in our memory. It's something you're obviously very keen to coach into the players to use that front bumper. It's such an invaluable trait within power chair football.
It's because you're coming onto the ball, and it gives the opportunity for the defence to set. It makes it more difficult. You're moving the ball quicker, and you're scoring a goal involving maybe 2 or 3 players rather than one strike that may go in. You know, the further the ball travels, the more time it takes, the more chance the opposition have got of getting back into shape. And we found it huge for us. I think most of our goals had a front bumper element to them because the ball will always move quicker than the man.
Of course. 2-on-1 awarded in favour of Sevenoaks. Once again, Baxter needs to be very much aware of his distribution. Whether it goes behind Boulding or in front, he's ready to capitalise. It'll be interesting to see how he takes this one. Watch Boulding constantly moving forwards and backwards, looking to intercept.
This is again a danger.
Just over 10 minutes left to be played. Spire 3, Sevenoaks 0.
Greg did the right thing there. You have to shape to be playing it to one space and then have the other opportunity or the other option in your mind. We had to do a lot of that in the World Cup because the Argentinians, but in particular, were lightning quick. Zigarelli would always be there before you. You had to sort of shape to go to one player, then pass to the other. That deception we were talking about at half time, you know, it's vital that you've got that in your skill sets.
Boulding into Bates.
It's amazing watching it at court level. I don't get the opportunity very often, but you can see from my point of view, looking at players that I'm working with, they play completely differently so you've got to admire their ability to adapt to what we do, because they are so different in their approach.
Contact as Jordan Williams reversed into the side of Jordan Williams.
We're 9+ minutes in now, 3-0 down, and it's settled into the same kind of pattern it did first half. And really, we could be staring at a 0-0 game. Easily. Aspire forcing things maybe a little bit, and you can pick them off and then break. But 3 basic errors have put them in a position where, you know, Aspire are under no pressure now. And they don't deserve it. They really don't deserve it.
No, as you said, Sevenoaks definitely trying to do the right thing. Adam McAvoy, more than anyone, can observe and acknowledge these individual errors. And not only that, if you talk to Greg after the game, he'll be the first to put his hands up, and that accountability is what makes him such a good player and person.
But I think it's also in the setup that if you have to set up knowing that, you know, if you get this wrong, it could hurt you. You've got to err on the side of caution. Doing what he's doing now, which is shaping to play wide and then coming into the middle. He's done the last twice, but Kyle's put too heavy a contact on the first possession, on the first ball.
Yeah, in them instances of play, that chair preparation and almost the angle of Alexander is so important.
Yeah, you have to have the Balding-like deft touch round the corner and that understanding from the wide players that it's coming. See if they... Oh, so it's a throw. So I want to see the next corner and see if they've learnt from the mistake from the first half.
Cleared by Baxter.
Again, too wide.
caught in two minds as to whether engage or stay in reverse.
If he's wide, front bumper, opposite player, and you're out. What we've learnt now on counter-attack, you've got to have somebody of the wide players narrow. Because the deep player can't always play the perfect pass, and sometimes that pass is straight. If it's straight, it can be a good ball if you're in a good starting position. So it's just that recognition. And the wide players have to have ultimate concentration at all times. I said in the very early parts of my coaching career that you're on a pitch, 4 players, a ball and a metal bumper. Don't be surprised if the ball comes to you. You should never be surprised that the ball might come to you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've had issues in this game in particular where it's almost surprised the player that the ball's come to them, and that can't happen. That's going back to Alex's point the other night on the podcast about chair preparation. So again, front bumper across, starting great triangles.
Well, they had the confidence firstly, James Mason going back to back, which was good, but having that bravery to just...
He was in a great pick-off position, but if you don't recognise it, but the whole, all of these things that we've discussed, that it's about us sharing knowledge now. And Adam will be one of the first to come to me in training and say, what do you think? What and we'll pick it up, and we'll all get better at it, and we'll have more appreciation. This again, vital now that just first entry into Aspire's half, probably in this half now. You've got to keep it here, build up.
Right intent from Alexander, but not the accuracy. As we didn't mention, Aspire have made a substitution. Sally McNeil has come on in place of Brad Bates. Bolden. Williams in support. Salim McNeil at the left-hand side of the box.
It's great breakaway again. Greg's seeing the pictures very, very well. He really is. And these are opportunities to score. People don't appreciate. You think, oh, you're in your own box. But you've got to understand, it's 2 passes to score a goal from there. And Greg's identifying the right ball in the majority of cases.
Yeah, he certainly did there. James Mason, once again, not quite positioned to capitalise. Nice pass, pick off.
And again,
should have been a pick off.
Good.
Great pass from Miles Miller.
I don't mind that. James trying to take 2 touches, which is great. And there you go. That's brilliant.
Great pass.
Brilliant. Unlucky.
Alexander couldn't quite get the angle on that pass to get it through the defensive players of Aspire. Substitution, we'll see Bobby Williams come on in place of Jordan Williams, and arguably Sevenoaks' most credible opportunity to score all game, which will be from this indirect free kick. Looks like Kyle Alexander will have responsibility. Just under 4 minutes. It remains 3-0 to the champions Aspire.
What do we say?
I don't think
2
they had that shared understanding of what they wanted to do from that set piece. A little bit disappointing. It's almost as if Miles Miller wasn't prepared to receive that ball when he was the only real option for the Sevenoaks captain.
Bobby's causing trouble again. Surprise, surprise.
Baxter. Intercepted by Bobby Williams. Has to be careful. Alexander, fortunately, takes up that most defensive role.
That's well played.
Kelly into Sally McNeil, who's just
got a problem with the chair.
Yeah, lost control.
Yeah. Oh, she's okay. She's going to score here. There she is. Far post, Sally. Oh, unlucky.
Baxter. Good pass. Into Miles Miller. Takes a touch, tries to send it down that line. Final couple of minutes. Tom Kelly into Boulding, back to Kelly.
That's good. Great play, Tom. Tom has the range, doesn't he? Tom has the range of passing.
His passing is probably his most improved attribute,
Yeah.
and that was shown to me most in the FA Disability Cup final at St George's Park last year. He's so much braver, and that's why I would like to see him introduced more into the play, because his distribution is so excellent. There's no reason why that can't be done in the attacking half.
I agree.
That's better. Miles Miller takes control. A little bit too much pace.
Yeah, but it's great distribution from Kyle. And we've got a minute left in it, and it's not a 3-0 game by any stretch.
No, once again, you take out them individual errors and then lapses in concentration. Sevenoaks have been competitive in this game, and that is exactly what we're talking about with regards to the individual errors. Once again, Greg Baxter gives possession back to Sally McNeil, whose effort finds Bobby Williams on the left-hand side. So the Aspire individual errors and then lapses in concentration. Sevenoaks have been competitive in this game, and that is exactly what we're talking about with regards to the individual errors. Once again, Greg Baxter gives possession back to...
Than he needed to. Because in the main, Greg's play going forward has been very, very good from a goalkeeper.
And that's what I hope Sevenoaks takes from this, is the positives that we're seeing. If them wide attacking players can just have that anticipation and that preparation, the passes that Alexander and Baxter are finding throughout this game, they certainly score, if not are far more competitive.
I agree. If you saw there with Kyle and Greg, if you're playing the ball into Kyle and Kyle is not dropping, that ball's only got to miss Kyle's chair by a millimetre and you're under enormous pressure. And this is what we try to do with John. Chris and John try and stay square to each other. And I think Kyle and Greg are just, there's too much angle on the pass. And it's just causing them a little bit of doubt. I think there's a team in the making in Sevenoaks, I really do. They're in a false position.
I think across the entirety of the season, they certainly won't be drawn into the relegation battle. We're seeing little bits of quality. They just need to make sure they take points against the more similarly matched oppositions. And if they're able to do so, they can just iron them individual errors out their game. They will be far more competitive, even against the top teams in the countries.
I agree. I think they're going to be a team that can get draws against the top teams, and then you build it from there. And then maybe that we saw a set piece around the edge of the box that they didn't execute properly. You've got to have those in your locker then. If you're in a 0-0 environment, a good set piece is a 1-0 victory. And you know, so there's a lot of good work, a lot of good things to work on there for sure.
So it ends 4-0 to Aspire. Opening goal from Brad Bates in the first minute, and then Sevenoaks impressed thoroughly. Second half, Jordan Williams scored in the 23rd minute, followed up by John Boulding in the 26th, and a very late Bobby Williams goal completed their win. But thank you to all that have joined myself and Colin Gordon. I hope this is the first of many.
I hope so too. Really enjoyed it. As I say, it's unusual to be courtside at this level and get the perspective that you do.
No, thank you very much. But hope others can join us for follow-up games in game week 2 of the PTC Therapeutics Premiership. Thank you. Thank you. individual errors and then lapses in concentration. Sevenoaks have been competitive in this game, and that is exactly what we're talking about with regards to the individual errors. Once again, Greg Baxter gives possession back to James Mason on the left-hand wing, Carl Alexander in the centre.
These are the areas where I worry. Exactly that.
These
are the areas where I worry.
It's where, once again, we reference the relationship between Baxter and Alexander as, once again, just not quick enough to close down errors and then lapses in concentration. Sevenoaks have been competitive in this game, and that is exactly what we're talking about with regards to the individual errors. Once again, Greg Baxter gives possession back to